putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Let me switch to another subject, though, because you brought up the fact that DACA is alive and well now. And one of the reasons it's alive and well is because you, as California's Attorney General, filed a lawsuit where the judge agreed to stop the phasing out of DACA by March. I want to ask you about that, because this, it seems to me, sir, is not the no-brainer that some people suggest it is. President Obama didn't even create the DACA Act, didn't even protect the Dreamers until 2012, almost 4 full years into his term, when he was running for re-election. Why doesn't, just as a matter of principle and of law, why doesn't President Trump have the same right to end DACA? And in fact, he doesn't want to end DACA. He just wants it to be a congressional law, not an executive action. But why doesn't he have the same right to move on DACA that President Obama did when he started it 4 years into his term?
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. That's a question that I've asked before on this show. I said, President Obama decides he's going to issue an illegal executive order. And I don't know if we challenged it at the time, but it's illegal. It's an executive order. There's no law to it whatsoever. There's no bite in it. But when President Trump comes in, he says, well, I don't like that executive order. I rescind it. And so this guy goes on, and of course, I'm going to let you hear the rest of his answer because it's amazing. It's amazing. It gets asked twice what happens, and because Chris Wallace, who by the way is a leftist, he's at least the guy that goes, I don't get the logic here, but I want you to hear this guy's answer. He's the Attorney General of California, and here's what you have to understand as you're listening to his answer. This is a man who's been elected to a statewide office, a very powerful office, the Attorney General of California. He's supposed to know the law. He applies this law not based on actual legal precedent. He applies it based on leftist ideology, and worse than that, from the standpoint of, I'm going to essentially cede California to Mexico. These are the people in power in California. This should scare Californians the most. Now, America, we can essentially say, you're not going to do this. The federal government can step in with the state of California and say, at some point, you're acting completely illegally, and we're going to be talking about that as it pertains to sanctuary cities. But I still want you to hear the rest of this, guys. I want you to hear his answer, and then you're going to hear Chris Wallace go, well, that doesn't answer my question, but here it is.
Chris, because no person in this country, even the president, is above the law. And if he wants to take an action, he must do it according to the law. And as the judge held in this case, the president and his administration acted arbitrarily and capriciously. And so that's why we've been able to have several victories. It's kind of poetic that the son of immigrants is the person wielding the legal slingshot against the Trump administration's attacks on our constitutional civil rights. But the reason we keep winning, in fact, we're batting 1,000 against this administration, is because the president believes he's above the law, and he continues to act arbitrarily and capriciously in taking actions. If you want to change the law, Chris, don't break it.
Well, I'm not sure I understand how he's breaking it. He was saying this was an executive order taken by the president. It wasn't even a law. And here you had Donald Trump saying, I'm rescinding that executive order, giving 6 months to do so. Why is that breaking a law?
Because, Chris, you go about a process. Even President Obama went about a process to establish an executive order. You go about a process. Remember, you have a whole bunch of people in this country. When our government takes action, they start to rely on the representations of our government to their detriment. And so whether it's the consumer who decides to get health care or the consumer who decides to go send his kids to a particular college, it's based on certain representations oftentimes that the government says we'll be there in this respect on health care or on education or on immigration. And if you're going to try to unwind that, you've got to do it through the right process. And clearly the president has continued to be arbitrary and capricious in the way he's tried to undo things. And that's why, as I said before, we haven't lost a case yet against Donald Trump.
Welcome back, everybody. Holy cow. Becerra. the Attorney General for the state of California, doesn't care about his citizens. He cares about the dreamers who are illegal citizens at this point, and who Donald Trump is saying, let's look at the situation. Let's fix it. And he's saying it's illegal. What's he doing trying to fix it? What's he doing taking that out of the executive order of Barack Obama, which, by the way, shouldn't have ever been enforced? I mean, that's what he should have been suing over. Why aren't we letting Congress do this? And for the record, if Barack Obama really cared about the dreamers, why didn't he do that when he had control of both the House and the Senate during his first few bits, time in office? Instead, what did he work on? Obamacare. Where's that? Gone. It's funny to hear these guys and his terminology. He said it twice. That I pick up on little things. I'm sure you did as well. I'm not trying to say, look at me, but arbitrary and capricious. He said that a couple of times. There's nothing arbitrary and capricious about this. Nothing. What he's describing is his argument. That's what he's describing. Isn't this beautiful? When you listen to the left, you don't have to worry about, how do I interpret it? I know I'm giving away trade secrets here. Don't tell anybody. But he said arbitrary and capricious. Twice. Talking points. He has no answer to this. Why are you telling the president of the United States that he's illegal in doing exactly what the other president did by undoing that? And then he says he's got to follow procedures. Nobody's above the law. These are talking points. If Donald Trump felt he was above the law, he would say, I'm rescinding it and I don't care what Congress does. He says, I'm going to rescind it, put it back into Congress. You guys figure it out. I'm happy to take it through the normal channels. The guy who claims that he's got supposedly he's a lawyer. He's the Attorney General of California. He should know the law. And what he's saying to you is, I don't give a crap about your laws. I represent Mexico. I represent these dreamers. Look, you tell me, if the Republicans were in any way smart, what they would say to all of America is the Democrats fight harder for non-citizens than they fight for their citizens. Do you know the problems in the Latino community in America? The Americans, that are of Latino descent. Do you know the problems they face every day? What are they doing to help them? The answer is nothing. They're pandering in hopes that these Latinos are going to go, oh, well, at least they're dealing with Latino issues. There is no such thing as a Latino issue. There are American issues and there are non-American issues. American and foreign. That's it. This is not a Latino issue, immigration. If the Republicans are smart, they will say, you can make this anything you want. This is not a Latino issue. It just happens that we border with Mexico. And that's our biggest problem, because we border with Canada, and that's not a big problem. We don't have an influx of Canadians. Why? Maybe because they have a little better economy. But we're willing to help you build your economy. Have we not helped you enough with a $58 billion trade deficit? By putting the Maquila Dores account, the border manufacturing right across, and having us have, in this case, at least free trade for the time being. We put $58 billion a year into your economy. You can't do something with that? What more do you want us to do? I look at it as, when you're stealing people's people, it's tantamount to slavery. It really is. Hey, I tell you what, Mexico, send over everybody willing to travel 2,000 miles by foot. These are people that, for all intents and purposes, they're pretty doggone motivated. Now, the problem is the motivation isn't to come here and work hard. The problem is the motivation to come here and get on our welfare system. That's why they need to get here legally, because we know if you get here legally, you're going to learn the language, you're going to learn our culture, you're going to learn our traditions, our customs, etc., and you have to become Americanized. That's the difference. And then he goes on, he brags, we haven't lost the case yet. Yeah, you haven't lost the case in the courts where your California district courts and the Ninth Circuit, because they're all stacked in the favor of every nonsensical thing you want to do. They're ideologically right in line with you in lockstep. But what about the Supreme Court? Did you lose the travel ban? Of course. Are you going to lose on DACA? Of course. In fact, Donald Trump's team said, we'll fix you. We're not even going to go. We're not going to appeal this ruling to the Ninth Circuit. We're going to appeal this ruling directly to the Supreme Court. And you know what the Supreme Court's going to do? They're going to vote probably 6-3 in favor of the president. Worst case scenario, it goes 5-4. But DACA is over. Period. So what? You added some temporary legs. It's over soon. Trust me on that.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.